Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just these few minutes that we can spend together today. God, I thank you for these leaders. I thank you for your work in them and through them. There is incredible kingdom impacting work represented on this call that's happening, and we're so grateful for that. Lord, just bless this time, speak to us and teach us something that you want us to know today, and just flow through Heather in a wonderful way. We commit this time to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, really glad to have each of you here today. And because it's a lunch and learn, the anticipation is we're not going to do a ton of interaction, any really interaction in this. It's meant to be, let's deliver some ideas. But as we get started, since this is the first one that we've done, a lunch and learn this year, I do want to invite any of you to give us an idea in the chat box of what drew you to spend your lunch together with us with this title, Optimizing Giving Pages and Donation Forms. What was it that said, oh, this is important for me? Was it the optimizing, you've got it? Or is it like, wow, that sounds like it's the giving pages. If I don't even know what this is, I better learn. What was it that drew you that you hope you will gain from today? So just throw a few of those ideas into the chat box. That gives me a little bit of a picture of what people are interested in and what they're looking for. So yeah, appreciate just different ones of you saying, want to know better job with our giving pages, lack of information about this topic. 80% of the folks giving pages finish the process. Okay, Colin, you're stealing my thunder. Way to go, buddy. There is this idea of optimizing giving pages. In the olden days, people basically would, send checks in to people when they had said, I want to support what you're doing. But we've all grown to learn that the technology is our friend in support raising and raising funds for our organization. And so this idea of how do we do this effectively? I love that word optimizing. It's kind of like, how do we go to the next level with what we currently have into the place where we even say it is the ideal, the optimization. So maybe optimizing is a little intimidating. My desire today is to help you say, what's my next level to really increase the optimization of our giving pages and donation forms? So when we think about this idea of your giving page, it's really, these are tools that we have that are on our websites that are guides to help donors know how they can participate with us. What can they do when they're seeking to partner with us and they're interested in the kind of work you're doing? They've heard about it, they engage with you. How do they take the next step? And so the giving page and the donation form is that guide to help them know what they need to do, how they do it, what are their options to do to be able to join you as a partner. So when you think about the donor's giving journey, and I called it the partner relationship process, you have a new friend or maybe a friend of a friend or somebody who has given to you in the past, and you've connected with them, and maybe what they've gained because they've been a past donor, some kind of a thank you because they're interested in you or they're aware of what you've done. And so you've spent some energy connecting with this person somehow. And then you're in the process of giving them information about your organization, sharing with them what's happened, who you are serving and how the impact is happening. And you send emails out communicating the good news of what you're doing and the impact it's having. Some of you even making phone calls to connect with these people. All this to say, all through this process of relationship building, you're spending a lot of time and energy to help shepherd and guide individuals to the place where they get onto your donation page. And that's a lot of time and energy you're investing to say, here's how you can engage with us further. And I love to use this idea that this process should help people say, people like us, people that have the same areas of interest, the same passion, do things like this. They're going to give, they're going to partner with you because that's what we share in common. So throughout this relationship guiding process, you're helping them identify that what you're doing, is it a good match for what they're interested in being a partner about? And it's a lot of work to continue that relationship process when they hit your donation page. And as Colin said, there is a really shocking stat that is current, is real, that when people get to your donation page, 80% of the people that get on those giving pages do not end up making a donation. That's a staggering number. 80% don't what we convert into someone that gives. So why do people go to your giving page? Is it because they're just curious about what you want to ask? Not typically. They'll go to your website for that, but they go to your giving page with typically an intention to give. So why do 80% of the people that want to go and give abandon? That's what we use, that word abandon, that intention, and they don't convert to a gift. So they don't say, I want to join you and partner with you as a financial partner. That's a really important question. Why do they quit? So that's part of what we're going to address today, and saying, how do we reduce that number? Can you imagine just reducing it by 10%? What's the impact of ongoing relationships, finances, fundraising for you if you just decrease by 10% the abandon rate that may be happening on your own site? And some of you may be tracking, how many people go onto your giving pages and how many people convert to it. If you do, great. That means you've got some great software. If you don't, then you're stuck looking at this going, 80%. Oh no, we do want to reduce that. What if you reduced it down to 50% or even 40%, half of this huge number? If you could reduce the number of people that abandon by making a process that doesn't create what we call friction or frustration or distraction, that would in turn enable them to become the partner that they intended when they first went on there, what would that mean to you and your kingdom work in continuing that and your desire to fundraise? So that is a shocking stat, and it obviously left an impression on Colin when he first heard that. So that is the question we want to say, how do we change that? How do we reduce that? So that's what we're going to be talking about. So this is that whole thing. What goes wrong? Well, a lot of things can go wrong in that process when people get onto your website and go through this journey as you're guiding them to make a gift. And so I would propose that you are going to be spending in this next 25, 30 minutes, you're using your time wisely to not only learn this, but then to turn around and go, what's the 1-2 things we can do to help reduce that abandonment rate? It's going to have a great return on your investment to be able to identify that in order to make the giving process really smooth for a giver, focused, and as easy as possible. That's what donors are looking for. So what is a giving page? So we've used these two terms, giving page and donation form, and there is a difference that we don't have to go through semantics, but the idea is that a giving page is the page on your website, usually that you have some kind of a button on your home page that says donate, give, that identifies how someone can partner with you as a financial partner. Many of our websites not only include donation for, focused on customers that come onto your website that are givers, but are also looking at your programs. So if you have a giver that's coming on, interested in what you're doing, you want to make sure that your giving page on your home site is very clear, that they know exactly where to go and what to do. And you can see, here's a couple of examples. The first one on the top is from Streetlight. And they have in pink, green, and black, right at the top of their homepage on the navigation bar, 3 options that could capture the eye of a giver that wants, and that will lead them to that giving page. So the homepage, you have a button that will lead someone to your giving page that tells them, now, how do I become part of your giving work? So it starts right on your homepage. And you can see House of Refuge. They've got programs, stories, and then give. It's got that orange button around it. They've made it super easy to see if you're a giver, where do I go? What do I do? So your giving page is the website page that you have that describes how people can partner with you and makes it really clear about what it is that they need to do in order to be a partner. So that's the starting place, is your website, your homepage, indicate how to get there. But then what we want to do is, as soon as you look at your homepage, is to look at it from a donor's perspective. I mean, you've probably spent a lot of time on your homepage, looked at it from lots of different angles in navigation, but I want to encourage you to go back and look at it from a donor's perspective. Even go back and donate to your organization, $5, $10, $200, I don't know, whatever you feel led by the Lord. Go through and practice it. When I was working with Jack in the Box as a regional trainer, we always talked about our mystery guests, the guests that would come through the drive-through and they would evaluate how good of a experience it is. I want to encourage you to become a mystery guest, a mystery donor, a mystery giver, partner, to be able to experience that, and even invite maybe some of your friends and family to come on your site and give you some feedback about that journey of a donor if they come on and say, I want to give. So here's some things that are very common that a donor is looking for is clarity on visibility. Do I know where to go when I first go on your website? So if you don't highlight that give button, then sometimes people get lost in all the information that's on a home site. So using highlighted give buttons that are easily recognizable, gives easy navigation, and then they can click right on that. I was spending time with a donor yesterday that was really trying to give a gift, actually to me, who's one of my regular donors, and she's in her 80s, and she could not figure it out. It was too complicated. It gave me a lot of great notes to help go, okay, what do we do to make this simpler? So you have to think of different age groups even when you think of a donor's experience. So what's the ease of visibility, navigation, and then language? I don't know if you ever considered this, but what's the language you use? You can see here on House of Refuge, they're using the language of give. And I love that, because if, as a Christian organization, the closer we stay language-wise to a biblical principle of generosity and giving, the more language makes people feel comfortable, and it says something. So if you're using the word donate, that isn't bad, but it doesn't quite have the same attachment to a kingdom mindset of giving and generosity. So just consider language, because donors notice language and it does say something to them. And so whatever your understanding or your desire to create a culture with your donors, consider the language you're using when they're coming onto your website and looking at these pages. A shared goal. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this shared goal. We also call this a value proposition. What is it that they would identify on your giving page that would say, people like us do things like this, give? So what is the people like us? What is it that they have in common with you? And if you only say giving to House of Refuge Sunny Slope, that doesn't tell them that it's people like us. But there's a smaller print there. It says, we depend on generous donations to love, house, and equip nearly 200 people a year. That statement there should be in a statement that says we have a shared goal that we want to do and that I'd identify with, and I go, yeah, that's me. I want to do that. So having a way to identify a shared goal is very important. And then having clear options. If you look here, they have very clear 3 clear options. Give now, which some of us call that occasional giver, the giver that would give to your general fund or broadly, but it's the people that just want to give right now. That's their intention. That's the language of a donor. It's like, hey, I just want to give, make it easy for me. So they called it Give Now, Give Monthly, and then tax credit. So that's their 3 different options that they are giving to a donor to say, which one do you identify with, to be able to help them guide what their interest is in giving. So think about those options, and then what's the impact related to that? And the last big thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, is about security. A donor is always thinking, if I give online, is this secure? And so you have to think about, how are you giving them that confidence of security? So that's just a starting place of consider it from a donor's perspective. Put on the glasses of a donor. Here is Streetlight, kind of how they are doing that. I love this idea of ways to give. So they actually have one of their navigation areas is ways to give. And if you hover over that, you've got donate, monthly giving, tax credit, which are their 3 other, highlighted ones above, but they also have corporate and business, schedule a tour, wish lists, volunteer, and even more ways to give. Donors like to know there are different ways to give. So if you put that on the front page, that's really helpful if they're wanting to explore. You really don't want to put that on your giving page as much to distract them from the thing that they say, oh, I'm ready to give. So giving it on your navigation, people can explore it, but once they hit Give Now, you want them to take action so they don't, they're not going to be abandoning that direction and that action. So this is their monthly giving page. They have a statement there. It says, choose the most efficient way to foster lasting change in the life of a girl residing at Streetlight USA. And then they have another more detailed, and you'll get all of these PowerPoints. We'll send them out to you so you can look at the details of them. But they're going to have another value proposition below that goes into more detail about your monthly giving. So they're promoting to someone that clicks on monthly giving why that is an incredibly efficient way. So they're reinforcing to a donor, you're making a good decision. Monthly giving, this is one of the most efficient ways to really do what people like us that do things like this want to do. So they're reinforcing that for them in that example there. This is their donate now, and they're talking, the problem is real, the problem is local, the solution is at hand. Again, they're identifying people like us are going to do something now, and they're connecting to this desire of whoever came onto this page to say, here's what this looks like, and they'll give you more detail. Another thing you can do as you look at this for yourself is go and explore some of these websites and see how the other people are doing it. And we're highlighting a few that are doing a great job. You can go take a look at that and spend some extra time on that as well. Their last option is the Arizona Charitable Tax Credit, and they give you a deadline. They say for every one time you give, you get one back. So they're giving you motivation if people are going to connect to Arizona Tax Credit of how to do that. So again, you're thinking like a donor. How do they want to give? And you're helping them know what to do. And take note of this, they actually created 3 separate giving pages. You don't have to just have one. So you want to be thinking like a donor and go, how do we want to steward their donation process to help them? And on top of this, not only do they have these 3, but when they do a special event, they'll also have an event giving page. So you do want to have a system, a way in which your systems of processing allows you to have different dedicated giving pages. If you don't have that, it's really limiting you, and you're definitely not optimized. You want to be able to, in a nonprofit environment, have very clear giving pages that meet the needs of the donors that are going to, that are looking for ways to partner with you. So here's the value proposition. I said I'd come back to this. But on your giving pages, you want short, not long, sentences that help people see that what we're talking about doing is really doable. We can make a difference. And I love the way Streetlight said it is, here's the problem, and there is a solution at hand right now. We are making a difference. That's what a donor wants to know is this going to make an immediate difference? So you want to make a value proposition on your giving page that says, this is it's doable. It's credible. So giving some kind of a testimony, and I'm talking a very short one that says, here's an example from somebody that said, here's what has happened to me, not the full story, but just that simple testimony that says, like so-and-so. Hopefully you're doing some of that in your emails that are leading up to someone coming to your giving page, but on your giving page, you're just using a simple testimony to affirm and assure you're making a good decision. So someone doesn't leave and abandon their decision in process. You can also show some simple uniquenesses. What sets you apart and why is partnering with you a good idea? And I'm again reinforcing this is 1 or 2 sentences that you would include in your value proposition. So being something's doable, credible, meaning that you are affecting other people, it's making impact, unique, what makes you doing this effective, and then compelling. Why is there an urgent need now? What makes this so important that they would want to act now rather than make a different decision? Now, I'm not talking manipulation, none of that. It would be my approach to being kingdom, but to create, why is this important? And how can they partner with you in a way that makes a difference, that reaffirms the decision that they made to go onto your giving page? Here's another example, someone working with seniors, and this is their simple, short value proposition. You can help St. Louis seniors donate to ensure that they have access to nutrition, health, safety, and transport services. These vital services help seniors stay independent longer. So if I cared about seniors, I know some of the challenges, and I've related to that, and I go, oh, I want to help seniors stay independent longer. I want to help provide these. So it's people like us do things like this, give today. Okay, this is a good decision. I'm going to carry out my decision. So notice this is where you click, and the next step will be the form that gives all the information to do it. So this is your value proposition telling someone, I'm making a good decision. I'm going to go through with this. This is another example on the giving page that you click on with House of Refuge. When you go onto their monthly donor page, when that's one of their options, they say housing, food's an ongoing need. By partnering with us monthly, you ensure that the stress of housing scarcity is relieved and residents can be mentored toward real transformation. It's like, okay, monthly makes a difference. And then get this, they actually are also saying, here is Rich, I don't know if it's his name or if he's just Rich, but he's a monthly partner. Here's a little testimony. And he says, as a volunteer and a monthly partner, I've seen firsthand how dramatically this ministry, with the help of the Holy Spirit, changes people to become children of God. That's an example of a testimony. It's a 1-sentence quote that again affirms to the donor, hey, other people that are monthly donors see the impact. And this is not only a donor on the outside, this is someone who's volunteering and has seen it firsthand. I'm making the right decision. I'm going to keep going and move forward in my decision. And of course, really critical, make it easy. I love this example of Boys and Girls Club of America. They have the value proposition to the left. They have a simple statement, help get kids a great future, started today. So there's a sense of that now, urgency. Boys and Girls Club, keep kids safe by providing a positive environment where they can learn, play, and grow. Donate today to help get more kids on the road to a great future. Great value statement. And then right next to it, they actually have their form built right in, makes it super easy. It's a pop-up screen, so they're not going away. They've kind of put everything together. And of course, they have a system that allows them to do that. That is very effective. So looking for a good system is part of this optimizing as well. So what do we do? What are some things you can do to reduce friction? So what are things that donors to abandon. Number one, how many times do I have to click to give? I go on a website, I want to give, click here, click here, click here. If I got to get clicks, more than 5 clicks, I'm like, how many more is this going to go? It feels like one of those endless infomercials that you're like waiting until you find out the real information. So I'd go back and count your clicks to give. How many times? And each time, every choice someone gives, every time they have to click, it's a micro yes. They have to say, yes, I'm going to continue. Yes, I'm going to continue. So how many decisions do they have to make? Now, it's not just clicks, but once you get on that, on the pages, how many times do I have to make a decision? Surprisingly, it's true, donors get weary of too many decisions. So look at your process and go, how many decisions am I requiring a donor to make? Look at things that might distract them. And I think this is one of the big reasons that people abandon go on the giving page. Lots of good things that could be useful on your website, not on your giving page, to keep people from giving. Once they hit give, you want to usher them into saying, this is a good decision. Examples, a great video. If you have a video on your giving page, then what happens? Someone clicks a video and boom, they're off. So they have to come back to that. And, we all get busy and you can get a phone call and the next thing you know, no conversion. It could be things, even just your navigation bar. Oh, stories. Oh, I want to read a story up there. So reducing anything that distracts people, because once they hit, I want to give, you want to help usher them into, that's a good decision. And so here's how you give. Your website can have lots of videos and stories and all of that. But once they hit give, you want to help them stay on that track. Look for anything that might be confusing, frustrating, or unclear. So this is where having someone else help you, like my friend who was in their 80s trying to go, what was unclear? That helped me a ton to understand some of the language that needs to be simpler, things that need to be easier. So you want to go think, what can I do to make this easier, to reduce friction that might keep someone from continuing down the road to being a donor and a partner with you in your incredible kingdom work. So here's a few questions, and this, we're not going to stop to do this, but you're going to have this as a follow-up to say, evaluate yourself. How well are your giving pages guiding partners? How visible is your giving button on your homepage? What is your language like? And does it fit your philosophy of giving that you want to promote, and that culture of attitude of giving and generosity and partnership versus donor, and seeing someone as almost transactional? How do you make this transformational and partnership oriented? Do you have clear, simple options for partners to choose from? Even I'd go to the next step and go, how many decisions are people having to make? Do you have simple, compelling value statements? And what would that look like to add or reduce your value statements that are reaffirming to people you're making good? Does your systems allow you to create customized giving pages that would fit your donors' needs, that would help guide them into the right giving pages to make their gift to you? And then have you reduced distractions? So thinking about what would it look like, and being aware of those distractions. So this is just a checklist page you can use to go back and do some of your own mystery guest evaluation of your giving pages. All right, so we hit giving pages, and I need to just wrap her up here pretty quick so we can get some questions and answers and open it up. But I want to hit this donation forms. And what is that in comparison to a giving page? Remember, giving page was the page that says, here are your ways to give, here's your options. Well, the donation form is actually where the donation gets processed. And it's usually done by whoever is, and you have access to, your systems have donation forms that are available through your processor. So it's going to give an array of giving options and ways to give. We want to make sure that there's only basic information. And if you can embed it, like that example of the Boys and Girls Club, right with your giving page, that's awesome. And always think like a donor. To build confidence makes it easy. And this is where you want to reaffirm security. So there's a lot of ways to do that you can identify it on a donations form. So I'm just going to say, here's an example of a very simple donation form that shows one time versus recurring. And then they have different amounts. You can put your other in, and they've got very clear 3 different ways: PayPal, credit card, and bank transfer. And then looking at, here's also a give by mail option, especially still, there are quite a few out there in the 70s and 80s that are giving still by checks, sending them in. So you want to have all that information available on your donation form so that people can do that. Or even some of them are on your giving page, like your mail-in options. It's always good to have a value proposition reminder, if you can, next to your giving form. Together, we're equipping boys and girls around the world with the influence that they need to defeat the injustice they've survived. So having it right there on your donation form, just again, is you're affirming their decision. So if that's possible for you, that's another thing you could do. It's another optimizing, tweaking, making it ideal. Embedding that form. So even here, this is using Tithely, which is free. You can now with Tithely embed it. There isn't an array of options you can get with Tithely as a processor. So it's just this fill-in spot. So there are some downsides to the free. I really think investing in a processor that gives you the ability to make donations simple and easy for your donors is a well-spent fundraising cost. Because you're making it easier for your donor. They don't have the ability to make a default with reoccurring or monthly, and really there's only 2 options: giving by credit card or ACH here with Tithely. And this is an example of AimRight. They've done a great job, and actually they were a part of a previous training, and they did some upgrades on their donation form to even make it simpler. So you can see they've got their monthly donors called the block. They've got some options there. They have it already pre-selected monthly. And this is now becoming more required as an ending option so that people can know that they can end it. The one downside in their system is they have to have this, where do I want my donation to go? What they did to simplify this for because here, when they had a drop down, there was a bunch of options. They took out all their options and they called it the block with an exclamation point. So there's only one option, but their system requires it to be chosen. And then they did get rid of this note to a donor because that became a question that caused abandonment. Wait a minute, is this going to go on public? Is this going to go on Facebook? Is it going to go where? What? How is this going to be public? And so people did abandon because it said your note to the donor scroll. And they're like, oh, where is that? That felt a little bit of a breach of privacy. So they got rid of that. And they do have a way to honor somebody there, which is kind of a cool option as well. So when you think about setting up, what you are doing, thinking through this is really important. Some of them, once you develop this, you actually can create an account once you've given a donation process. That's really helpful. They can monitor it themselves, but you better make sure that setup account is easy. I have a person that I have known for 20 years on the field. She's Ukrainian. I've supported her for 20 years. I was going to give a year-end gift to her this last year, actually 2 years ago. And it was so hard to get back into my account that I couldn't do it. So 2 years ago, I gave up. This year I tried again, still couldn't get in, and I'm a regular donor. And so I abandoned in both cases. So you want to make sure that your systems do work and they're not actually working against you. All right, wrapping that up. Here's another good example. You'll see that you can even look here and go, what do they do well and what don't they do well? Because nobody does it perfect. So here's kind of our checklist. Be donor focused, plan out your options for giving, make them clear, making them obvious, making them simple, create value propositions, and have visuals. I didn't mention that before, but any visual you use, it should speak directly to what you are doing and not look like it's a canned picture. If it can relate to something that's directly related to what you're doing, that's a way better visual than a canned visual in the giving process, because it makes it credible that this is something that's being done. It's not just pulled out of a magazine. Reduce distractions, make giving easy, giving options for giving, giving amounts, and testing your giving pages, even on mobile devices. Good checklist to go through and just make sure you're doing this well. So I'm going to stop here on content and open this up to have some conversation around this. So are there some questions that have come up? Feel free to unmute yourself. We've got a small enough group. I think we can do that. First of all, any questions?
I have a question. I'm wondering, is GoFundMe considered a giving page?
GoFundMe is an external group that allows you to fundraise on your behalf. And then they have their own giving page that people give through them that can then come toward you. So it's not your giving page, but they have their own giving page with their own system. So it is an example of one. It's just not yours. It's not one you can control.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it's good clarification on that. Other questions? Any ahas, anything that just stood out to you and said, oh, that's the thing I want to focus on. That's the first area that this next step I can take to really improve my donation pages or my giving pages, my donation forms or giving pages. Anyone want to share kind of what's your number one takeaway?
Those
For
buttons.
me, it's that
Go ahead,
reminder of just make it simple as you possibly can. If there's any ambiguity or confusion, as you said, then it's going to be the abandonment issue. And I think that some of the third-party, donor portals that allow you to create, your login or whatever, like you said, Heather, then it's where is that? What did I do with that? Can I get back in, to adjust my amount, to do whatever? It just really can be difficult for people. So just that constant reminder of how can we make this as simple and clear as possible.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, John, and to do that from the put your donor hat on. It's one thing when we're doing it because it's familiar to us. This is our world. Donors, they're in and out. I had a donor that had a life change and had to reduce their donation to, for me, and they're trying to figure out how do I get in to do that. And, and it's like a fourth party for them to go into their account settings and, how do we help donors get access to that? And so, sometimes they'll have questions, and if we can make it easier for them, that's what we want to do. Help guide them, make it simple process and not create confusion. So yeah, great. Eloise, what were you going to say? You're talking, you're muted.
I'm just talking away and I forgot I put myself back on mute. I really like and I didn't think this before, the buttons on the home page, those 3 buttons, give monthly, Arizona tax credit, and all in different colors. Because that for me as a donor, that'll be the first thing to catch my eye if I'm going on the website to donate. I like that. I have a question though, and if you don't mind, can I add, because there's 12 or 13 people on this call. Can I take a quick survey?
Sure.
My button on my homepage says impact gift. I want to get feedback from everybody there. As a donor, would you know what that means? would it, and it's in color, it's a button that's in color, but I just want to get feedback from everybody on that.
Put it in your text, is that clear? Yes. Is it confusing to you? Do you like it?
Yeah, that's
You
what I
can just
want
type
to
it
know.
in.
Is it
Type it
clear?
in there. Yeah, it's a good question to get some feedback. Eloise is always going to take an opportunity. I love that about you.
Well, I think for me, we might know what impact gift means, but I would want to know how the impact is. What if it's impacting, how is it impacting? I'd want more definition than just impact gift.
Great feedback, Robin. I would say that on your website page, it would be great if you touch before you have impact up here. If you have something that says to people, what we're doing is making an impact, and then they would absolutely know what impact gift, if you can put it on your website before they click on that, that's saying, here's what we're doing to make an impact. And you use that language and you visually demonstrate that before they even click on it. That every time you want to connect to those things there. It's a good question though.
Yeah, because we have it on this, after you hit it, that's when you get a detailed description of the impacts, but that makes sense. People may not even hit it because they don't know what it is.
Yeah. And that's
I'll read
something
the-
that
I'll
Renee
read everything
said,
else in the
it's
chat.
feedback.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Heather, this is Colin. Hey, so I know we've talked a bunch about CRMs, and I'll say the one aha thing that was helpful from this was the idea of having different links or different buttons you can click specifically for monthly versus a one-time gift versus the tax link. I think that's helpful to be able to cut down the number of clicks people have to take. So I know we talked about CRMs, but what platforms do you like for giving pages? Like, who do you recommend? Can you give any pros and cons to different groups that you like and would recommend?
That's a great question. And it's a hard one to answer because there's a lot of it depends. We've talked about that some. And I wanted to clarify there's not only CRMs, and the point of a CRM is to manage your contacts, contact resource management. And so you have a database of contacts, but there's also things that are called fundraising platforms. And this is growing to say sometimes you need both. And I will say we highlighted House of Refuge on here quite a bit. They didn't have a CRM, but they did have a fundraising platform that enabled them to have multiple giving pages, to have a lot of clarity. That served them well for their first $900,000 of their budget. And then they did their CRM later. Now, I'm not saying that that's the right solution, but some of you, we've talked about Giving Fuel. Giving Fuel has CRM capacity, but it's really a fundraising platform that gives you the ability to have multiple donate pages. So it's a good starter for fundraising platform, but it is not a strong CRM. If you get a strong CRM, they aren't always good at fundraising platforms. So do you have to spend money to make money? Yeah. And that's where to look at what is the right steps for you. I have come to suggest to smaller nonprofits, the best way to start with a thing like Giving Fuel that gives you the capacity to have multiple options, and then start to say, what are some options for my CRM? Now, I know some of you have had Giving Fuel and you've outgrown it pretty quickly. But that's not to say that if you didn't use something that gave you the ability to do multiple giving pages, that you might not have had other issues. So I still think that is worth the expense. Giving Fuel is about $59 a month to have multiple pages and to be able to have some control over peer-to-peer fundraising. And so it's a low-end, easy starter fundraising platform. It's not a strong CRM. There are some CRMs that do all of it well, and you're going to pay more for that. But you're gonna, pay eventually anyhow. So I like Donor Snap, Donor Perfect. We also talk about Virtuous. Virtuous is kind of the high end. You'd need to have somebody who has capacity to really manage that. But there's a lot, and I'd rather have that conversation with you individually versus this broad, because it really depends. But also learn from each other. If you find somebody that does this super well and you look at theirs and you say, I like what theirs looks like and feels like, then reach out to that leader. You could, even if you don't know them, you can go to their support page, contact us and go, hey, I'm another nonprofit, love your giving pages. Who do you use for your CRM or your fundraising platform? And I've never had anyone not answer that question for me. So, it's, I would say, find what you like, what it looks like and feels like out there, and then, kind of go in that direction as well, because there are endless options. And I certainly am not expert in all of them, but yeah, I gave you a few places I would start. Some of you have some of those, so you feel free to weigh in your thoughts on that, because you've had some experience with some of those things. And even if it's different than what I just said, I don't mind you giving a real life perspective. It is the question of the hour, Colin. If we had one magic one that we would do, then that's great. But everyone has some strengths and some areas of weaknesses. And that's why I typically say, find something that you like. And when we send this out, I've got a bunch of different examples out there. And if you were drawn to some, you can go and figure that, look at that as well. Some of them actually say at the bottom, powered by raised donors.
Right. I've seen that before. I really like Donor Snap. I'm glad you recommended that one to me. I think that's probably what we're going to go with as a CRM. I wasn't really thinking about fundraising platforms being different from CRM. So you give me something new to look at and investigate. So thanks.
Yeah, they are different, and some have better, some CRMs like Donor Snap. I don't know what Donor Snap's capability is, but I think it is better than, like, Bloomerang is a good CRM, but their capacity to provide customized giving pages, and especially the donation forms, I think they're pretty far behind on that one. I love the Boys and Girls Club, and they're using a higher end one. And if you want to really go for it, sometimes it's better to find a great one that's more expensive and spend $200 to $500 a month than it is to piecemeal a few of them together. And I've seen a few of you nodding your heads because you tried to put this one together with that one, and they don't always work well together. So, just say, what is an appropriate amount for us to invest in fundraising so that we can help our donors have a really good process? And, you may not be ready for it today, but it's something that you can grow into and figure out what that right amount is for you.
Yeah, I think that's the key question is, what do you need, right? What's going to help you? So I think not just what is the best system out there that everybody is using, but how do you want to interact with your people? How do you want to connect with your people? And then what platforms are gonna best serve you there? And then, the other thing I would say is, if you feel like something is going to work well for you that's a little bit more on the expensive side, that's a great thing to raise money for, because a donor may step up, or a group of donors may step up and say, we'd love to fund that for you, knowing that it's going to have quite a bit of impact for years to come, right? The ripple effect of gifts like that are going to be significant. So you can always find free stuff out there, but our experience is you're going to be frustrated with free stuff. So prioritize it. Of course, it does need to fit your budget, but we really think it's important for you.
Mm-hmm. And when you go to look for a CRM or a fundraising thing, always ask them for examples of some of their current clients. Then go to their giving pages to see what they look like in practice. Because whenever you go through a tour or, you talk with a rep, they're going to give you every wonderful thing that they do. But in reality, you want to see what it looks like in play. House of Refuge did just change their donation platform system. And it was by far the easiest transition I've ever done as a donor. Because that is a nightmare. Well, you can shift this over time. Changing donors on platforms, on processing is not a fun experience. So you don't want to do it often. So you do want to spend some time. House of Refuge went to PushPay as their CRM. So maybe you want to check them out. And that process was very easy. It was clear that somebody knew how to do that and to do it well from a donor's perspective. So just another practical plug, and looking at, if you start to investigate who to do this with, identify some of their clients and you can talk to them, get a real life experience. How was it? And the other thing to be aware of, there's always a transition time. It's never fun to learn new stuff. It takes time and energy to do that. And sometimes there's additional costs up front. And like Jonathan says, that's a great major gift partner ask, because it does have, it's really a non-consumable. It's going to keep serving you over time. So yeah, we're at the end of our 50 minutes. So if anyone wants to stay on, we'll sit here and be glad to stay on till the top of the hour. But want to thank you guys for joining us for your lunch. And we will follow up and send this out so you can do more investigation. And of course, if you want to schedule some one-on-one coaching, you can do that on our website. We'll be glad to have a further conversation with you.